Good evening. Welcome to the Monday, March 10th, 2014 meeting of the City of Eureka Springs City Council. Madam Clerk, if you call the order or establish a quorum, please.
James DeVito.
Here.
Joyce Elder.
Here.
Terry McClung.
Here.
David Mitchell.
Here.
Steve Perkypod.
Here.
Mickey is absent with notice. We have 5.
Please join me in the Pledge of the Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. A motion to approve the agenda.
So move.
Second.
People here.
Changes, deletions, no additions, but changes, deletions. Yes, David?
Yes, I'd like to add a topic about the change in ambulance services letter from the mayor.
That would be under new business,
Yes.
the last one.
Okay. You need a second? I'll second that.
Okay.
Because I would like to know what it's about.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes.
Mr. Perkypod?
I'd like to move number 8 under new business up to the first order of business, first number in
Okay,
unfinished
I'll
business.
second that.
Okay.
Number 8 is unfinished.
Number 8 and unfinished. We'll have Smitty's here to talk about transit. We'll
That
get him
was
in
new
and out.
business.
New business.
Yeah.
Sorry.
About animals?
Number 8 in new business.
Regarding transit.
Oh, in new business.
Up
Okay.
to
Okay.
number
Okay.
1 and
Mr. Mitchell?
unfinished.
I don't have that one.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I was noticing there was a fair number of updates and postpones, and I wanted to see if anybody still wanted to postpone number 5 under unfinished business. It was an update postponed to March 24th. Obviously, that wouldn't be discussed, I would assume. And then number 6 was a postponed till March 24th under unfinished business. And then number 10, discussion of the courthouse lease, is postponed also. So we would then under new business number 3, I'd like to just delete the wedding license that I brought up and just take it off the agenda.
I'll second that.
And number 5 is discussion of proposed rotting the bricks property is postponed anyway till the 24th. That was Mickey Snyder's, some proposal she has. And number 6
wait,
is
number 2? Excuse me, we're postponing number 2?
new business number 3 taking off, new business number 5 postponing because it says that
okay.
anyway.
Now I wondered, the Rock Street thing, what did you say about that? That's postponed?
No.
No,
No.
ma'am. I said number 5 is that Mickey is the one that has some proposal, and it's postponed till the 24th anyway. It's something that Mickey has
Oh, with
specific.
the parking lot. Oh.
No, ma'am.
No.
Rock Street. Number 6, discussion of reimbursement to Susie
Okay.
Allen. It's not Ms. Snyder's not here, and unless Joyce is going to talk about it, that might have been
Talk
subject.
about what?
Number 6 under new business, the reimbursement for Susie Allen. You and Ms. Snyder had brought it up. I was going to postpone it.
Well, no, I think
want-
that she would like to know whether we're doing anything
Okay.
about it or whether Public Works. I mean,
Okay.
I would be concerned if it were my property.
So you're going to talk about it then instead of Ms. Snyder, okay?
Probably, yeah. I guess. Yes, I would like to know how we're doing with Susie Allen and her water damage. Yes.
Due to a lengthy agenda tonight and what's involved with discussion of the hospital and the hospital commission, I would like to table that to the next meeting and possibly to a workshop, because it will be a very lengthy discussion.
I'd like to, workshops really needs to
Would you
happen.
make a motion to go to a workshop?
I would like to make a motion that the City Council and the full Hospital Commission meet in workshop to discuss health care for Eureka Springs.
I'll second that.
Okay.
Okay, any other? Pardon?
You made a motion. Do you want to vote?
Well, that was just okay, on the motion to have a workshop on that, do I have everyone in favor say aye?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Okay, do I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved.
I second it, but can I get I think I missed some things because my agenda may not be the most current I thought it was.
Do you have another one, Ann?
Is there anything that's particular that's stricken that I need to... Are these coming out?
Yeah, they're
That's
postponed.
unfinished.
I clearly have an old copy.
5 and 6.
that's out too. Courthouse lease,
Which one's that?
number 10, new business. I'm sorry, unfinished business.
Okay, I think
Okay,
I'm up to speed.
everybody up to speed?
Yeah,
The motion is to approve the agenda as amended. All in favor, say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Approval of the minutes for February 24th, 2014. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Any discussion? Deletions, changes? All in favor of the approval of the minutes, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Commission, committee, authority reports. I don't see anybody here, so we'll move on to public comments. Teresa DeVito. Might be timekeeper.
Everyone's coming in. I'm speaking on behalf of 200 people tonight. Here are those signatures.
It's not all 200 coming in.
No.
Oh, good.
But I am the voice, and we're all here supporting each other tonight.
You have 3 minutes to address council.
People openly carry weapons in downtown Eureka Springs will be very alarming, not just to shop and restaurant owners, but to tourists who will not understand walking around and seeing a lot of people wearing firearms. This planned open gun walk would cause fear and anxiety and confusion. Apparently, the group Northwest 746 doesn't care. The event organizer, Marty Suchland, was quoted in a local paper as saying she is aware of the presence of gun and secured holsters is enough to threaten some people, but she continued that the fear is something we have to deal with, and it's her Second Amendment right to carry these weapons. It is simply not acceptable for this group to know they are going to cause fear and go ahead and do it anyhow. The Attorney General has issued an opinion that Act 746 does not authorize this so-called open carry. This group just can't decide to interpret the law how they wish. There's a lot of debate about the law, and Northwest 746 wants to determine if the Act authorizes open carry. They should mount a legal challenge, such as was done in Mississippi. Don't instead try to force the issue using force and ruining a spring weekend in Eureka Springs. Chief Hyatt said he believes that anyone could openly carry a rifle or shotgun, but not a handgun. Northwest 746 said it plans to wear their guns in a holster. That would indicate handguns, which are not legal to be carried openly. If that is true, then this group plans to violate the law. This group said it won't go anywhere firearms are prohibited, but we question whether they know that bringing firearms is prohibited anywhere that serves alcohol. Does this group understand that that's most restaurants in Eureka Springs? So Eureka Springs should pass an emergency ordinance stating that the open carry of firearms is not allowed on our city streets, our city facilities, on our trolley system, and any other of our businesses. This group has announced its intentions to cause fear and disruption in Eureka Springs. The City Council should at the very least pass a resolution to contact the group and tell them they are not welcome to openly carry weapons in Eureka Springs and will be arrested if they break the law. The gun culture has led to the U.S. having more school shootings than all the rest of the world combined. The U.S. has more gun deaths per capita than any other country in the world. The Eureka Springs City Council should go on record as being opposed to events that glamorize firearms and cause fear in the community. Finally, Eureka Springs is a very safe community. We have a low crime rate. We haven't had an armed robbery in many years. Murder is very rare. People do not need a firearm to be safe living in Eureka Springs, and if we desire to educate ourselves about handguns, we are capable of seeking out knowledge on our own terms, which do not include or promote fear and intimidation. What an absurd approach to educating the public. Please, please oppose this.
Thank you. Nancy Fuller.
Good evening. I've only lived in Eureka Springs for about 5 years, but I was raised in a family who hunted. I shot my first .22 when I was 6 years old. I am a fervent guns rights advocate, just as I am a free speech, due process, and every other constitutional rights advocate. But open carry has too much of the taint of irresponsibility. Open carry had its time and its place about 150 years ago, as the culture was accustomed to open bearing of arms at that time. Then society had useful and polite conventions that accommodated open carry. Then the practice was rather expected, but that is no more. Our society will not regain its core by the practice of openly wearing weapons. At first look, the supporters of open carry seem to promote a promising way to extend and defend their Second Amendment rights. The status of open carry in the state of Arkansas is currently in dispute. I did call the state attorney general's office today. The bill enacted in July of 2013 decriminalized open or concealed carrying of a loaded handgun without demonstration of malicious intent. The Arkansas State Attorney General issued a non-binding opinion, and the intent was to protect from prosecution people carrying firearms while traveling through or across the state, and that open carry of a loaded handgun is still technically illegal. Open carry advocates claim they're simply capitalizing on the fact that there's no law against strapping on a gun and walking around in public in most part of the United States. There's also no law against breakdancing in the middle of Death Valley in July while wearing a fur parka. It's not something that people would consider doing. Whether they realize it or not, open carry advocates are trying to make the open carry of firearms into a social norm. People don't customarily carry sidearms or swords for the same reason why they don't carry bullwhips. It's because it's not needed. There are places in the world where it really is necessary for people to arm themselves to go about their daily business, but Eureka Springs is not one of those places. A pistol's prime advantage is its small, concealable size. Open carry gives up a pistol's single greatest advantage over a rifle, and that is stealth. It alerts every criminal that you are armed so he can take you out first. He can then relieve you of that pistol. Tactically, concealed carry beats open carry every time. The final factor is political. Many gun owners are feeling their oats after Heller versus McDonald. They're flexing their political muscles, feeling 10 feet tall. But not all gun owners are rational people. There are unstable folks out there with guns advocating open carry. If one or two of these people push the limits of civilized behavior, all firearms owners will get tagged as crazy gun owners. That's not fair to those of us who consider ourselves to be mature and responsible citizens. But that's the world we live in. Enough such incidents and the hammer will drop down, and some draconian gun laws that will make now expired assault weapons ban seem like a pleasant memory. Open carry is not a social norm, and it does not need to become one. Open advocacy of open carry runs a real risk of dragging all gun owners down into a pit of some serious, no-nonsense gun control. Call me crazy, but for the dubious pleasure and questionable tactical advantages of walking down the street with a pistol on your hip, it's unnecessary. It is my opinion that the society and culture that accommodated the practice of open carry no longer exists. We do not need to have it in Eureka Springs.
Okay. Chris Young.
I have a concealed weapon permit to protect myself, my family, and assist law enforcement. I'm not permitted by law to carry mine open in Carroll County. Yet an untrained 18-year-old with no background check could, without a clear law to the contrary, strap on a firearm on his side and walk through the streets of Eureka Springs. I propose that Eureka Springs enact a local ordinance or law to prevent this and any other individual from open carry of any weapon. Possible wording. I would like it to say something similar to this: to make it illegal within the city limits to openly display or carry weapons, to include sidearms, shotguns, rifles, swords, battle axes, crossbows, nunchucks, and anything else you want to add, outside of an occupied or secured vehicle, with exceptions given to transporting weapons from a vehicle to an inside secured area, weapons show event, martial arts studio or competition event, or supervised schedule outside martial arts demonstrations, or an event approved by city permit to include the use of a weapon. Thank you.
Raven Durkee.
Hello. Guns, wow. I personally don't really have a problem with guns. And I admit when Act 746 was passed, I didn't really give it a passing glance, other than to wonder what kind of knee-jerk reaction we might see if the Muslim Brotherhood was to exercise open carry in the town of Berryville. So I guess it stands to reason at the same time some neocon would be wondering what it would be to open carry in a progressive town like Eureka Springs. And Eureka is a progressive town, but there's a lot of people that are afraid of guns. They're intimidated by guns, and they fear seeing guns. They're uncomfortable. They wouldn't want to go out on the street at the same time people we're working with guns. There's a lot of people that visit Eureka Springs that, and I take this for granted and forget all the time, that there's places where people can't walk down the street holding hands with each other like they can here, and they come here for that vibe. And I forget that there's crime all around us, and there's people that come here to get away from it all, where there's no crime, and you don't have to look over your shoulder if you're walking through an alleyway at night. And there's people that come here, too, to cut loose and have a good time and get rowdy, but all the common thread that connects them is the not having to worry, the peace of mind. And what are we going to do? It's been suggested that we put in our shop windows no firearms. I don't want to be manipulated into putting guns or a sign on my window that says no firearms. I don't want to broad brush a stroke just because of a few people. I don't want to put up a sign that says no hippies. I don't want to put up any type of sign. I think the better solution would be if we were to work together to find a way to prohibit anybody outside of law enforcement from walking around with pistols, especially if they're doing it just to make a point. Thank you.
Thank you. Susie Allen?
Sorry, mine is I came the last meeting to get on your agenda for reimbursement for the water main breaks, and I gave you an amount that was wrong. It is a lot less. My insurance deductible was not $2,500. It was only $1,000 at that time. It is $2,500 now. And it came in 2 hours short of what I thought it would take to finish cleanup this second time. So there's another $20. The total that I'm asking for now is $1,730. And I have the receipts. I don't know if you want them now or when I come back in for.
We'll save it till then. Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Rachel Briggs?
I think it's already all been set up.
I have a signature here, a very flamboyant signature.
Randy.
Okay.
That's all right. I can't read it right anyways. Yeah, I'm Randy Woodward, even though he couldn't read it. I have two short stories, that one on a national scale and one on a local scale, but this is really about business and image, in my opinion. The image that we project creates the business that we generate. But about 20 years ago, Susan and I did a national tour, a book tour, to promote an environmental program. We talked to schools across the country. We went into probably the most influential, wealthiest school in the nation, or one of them at the time, and we spoke to the kids that were very rowdy, undisciplined, ruly, and it was very difficult to even get to the program. We asked the principal what was the problem after the program, and he said, discipline, fear, dealing with the parents, and that sort of thing. 3 or 4 months later, we found out that that school was, we knew it was Columbine, but it was, that's the murders that happened in that same school less than a year later. It was totally undisciplined. Recently, last fall, I sat in my favorite restaurant and watched people come in having a great time. A group in the back were obviously having a wedding reception. There were honeymooners and people having anniversaries. There was several gay guys sitting together having a good time, as well as some lesbians in the corner. Old hippies and locals and people that had never been in before, and everybody was having a great time. About halfway through my meal, a group of 4 people walked in and sat in the only available table, and it was in the center of the room. And 3 of them were males and a female, and these were kind of good old boy guys and good enough there, but they were big, burly people that had an attitude. And as I watched them walk across the room, I could see at least 2 guns on their hips and could tell that the other 2, one female had a gun probably underneath the vest she was wearing, and a male with a gun underneath his vest. People noticed this. They sat, they watched, and I could tell the energy level dropping tremendously. It went from a room that was full of high energy, people having a great time, to being the life sucked out of it. And that's what I think we're going to do to Eureka. It's not that they can carry guns, they create an attitude, and it's fear, lack of discipline, lack of control, and we must stop this, because that rest of that evening could be like the rest of Eureka. It could take the life out of our town. It could suck the energy out for fear. So that energy and that image could change completely. One incident like Columbine, we would get national attention that would change it forever.
Thank you.
Susan Morrison?
Okay. Hello?
Testing.
Testing, are we on? Hello?
Yeah.
Murder made easy. Louis L'Amour said it when writing about the men of the Old West who packed iron. In our layman's terms, that was 6 guns slung on their hips. Murder is supposed to be real personal and hard to commit, but it has become impersonal and easy, fed by a greedy industry that has for its own profit convinced the American people that everyone needs a gun. And if you're really smart, you'll keep an arsenal. Murder made easy. And now we have a group of people, not even from here, who want to come to our town to create a new trend for Eureka Springs, the open packing of a gun. Murder made real easy. I'm going to tell you an incident that happened right here, and it's true. Not too long ago, one of our employees got into an argument over his truck blocking someone in our parking lot. And by the time Randy got out there, both of those guys were getting into their vehicles to get their handguns out. Randy was able to calm them down. Had they been openly packing, one of them could have easily been murdered. No one would have the time to bring reason to the situation. They were both that mad over a parking space. Here in our lovely tourist town, people come to relax and enjoy themselves, and can, because they feel safe. Here we welcome all races, cultures, and creeds. We embrace those who need our protection, from children to gays to our arts community to our retirees. It is one of the greatest assets Eureka has, this being safe. And it is one of our biggest tourist revenue streams. It is insanity to let a group of adult bullies demand that we allow them to prowl through our town, announcing to all they encounter by the gun on their hip that murder has just been made easy in Eureka Springs, forcing us to put up signs announcing their feared presence just to keep them out of our establishments, trapped between making our client base uneasy with the advertising of this menace or letting gunslingers take over our town, running our client base off with their threatening behavior. And believe me, when you openly carry a gun, that is blatant, threatening behavior. This will more easily destroy the hard-earned ambiance of our town as swiftly and surely as the swept-go power lines we are fighting so hard to prevent. We are here to implore our City Council to act on the behalf of the citizens of Eureka Springs, to protect us, our clients, our livelihoods, our children. Draw a line in the sand. Don't even let this get started here. I have a feeling that another person like me, some 100 years ago, stood before their council, like I am tonight, right here in Eureka. Only they were, through hard-learned experience, ending the very thing that these selfish and probably violent radicals are trying to begin again. Murder can't be made easy here. Being forced to live under that kind of fear will cost us everything. I'm not here to tell you how to stop this. All of you sitting here are very competent people, and I'm sure you can, between you, find a way. I am here to help you understand that the majority of the people of Eureka Springs, the people you represent, want you to stop this. Thank you.
Sherry Willis.
Hi there. My name is Cheryl Willis. I am the secretary for the Eureka Springs Trails Committee, and I am here to create a vision of what our town could be like if we would all pull together and think about our future and our present. I've been here for 5 years, and I come from many other places where we had trails, and they were wonderful resources for skiing through town, for doing all sorts of things to get our community to be a walkable city. Eureka Springs is not that rich compared to some place like Portland, Oregon, or Seattle, but those are some very, very walkable communities. We, on the other hand, are rich in resources of very hidden gems that even our locals don't know about. In the past 5 months that I've been on this committee, I've discovered that our city owns vast amounts of city streets that used to be used, that used to be walkable, and that we've either not opened ever or have let go into disrepair. We have many old roadbeds and many old platted streets. Many of those, unfortunately, have been vacated and absolutely ruined our ability to walk from East Mountain all the way down to downtown. Yet I can do that on certain streets that I know about because I've investigated. We have the opportunity to create a wonderful trail system here that will connect all of our city parks from Lakewood to Black Bass Dam to Hart's Grocery Store to every single school. Now, the schools are a little bit of a problem. We'll have to work on that. But we will be able to make a complete loop around this town without ever doing anything but crossing a few streets. And I've hiked the Appalachian Trail. I've worked on trails. I've done other things. My husband has worked on trails. This is extremely doable and an incredible resource for our community, our people here, to be able to walk through and find the birds that are here, to find the plant life here, and to be able to do it in the peace of what we all moved here for. The peace and beauty of a small, quaint town, and also be able to enjoy all this. But not only that, benefiting our community, but we can also benefit ecotourism and our businesses, because this will bring vast amounts of people here because we are a walkable city. We're not now. We're in danger. Our children are in danger. We have this committee. I don't know how long the committee has been going on, at least 2 years, I know. We're right in the middle of discovering some of these places that are so important to our community and have been lost or unseen. And I have discovered so many things. I want everyone to be able to do that. And in order to do that, we're going to create a system that has a big loop here and feeders out to everything else. One of the main arteries to be able to connect all the way from 62 to the train depot is Rock Street. It is absolutely critical to what we've worked on for the past 2 years.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sonny Carter.
I think most of the people here know me. I am a Democratic candidate for state representative, and I'm going to talk about the gun stuff. I don't like it. I think it's absurd that somebody could go and purchase a gun at 18 years old and come over here. What day is that thing? Friday or Saturday? Saturday, the 29th, and without 1 second's training, no permit of any kind, walk around this town with a gun strapped to their side. I think that's absolutely ridiculous. And I don't understand why in the world this state needs a law that would ever permit that. And I will, if I get elected, believe me, I will fight it. I think we got to get rid of that. Nobody seems to remember Newtown and Columbine, or either that or they've got Wayne LaPierre making them think they're going to be safer if they walk around with a gun strapped to their side. Well, that's just plain not true. So we got to do everything we can to prevent this particular event from even happening. And I hope our police chief understands that. Thank you.
Thank you. That ends public comments. Moving right along. The list? There.
Thanks.
First order of business will be Smitty. You have a presentation for the Transit Department, a resolution approving the 2014 update to the Title VI program and for other purposes.
Right. Title VI is basically a non-discrimination compliance form that all federally funded organizations are required to adhere to. Last Tuesday, the 5th, I was notified by the state that this was due on the 20th. And Ann and Diane and I looked for a previous resolution approving the Title VI, and we could not find one. And this update does require a resolution from a board, which is you all, approving our Title VI application and update. Yes, sir.
Mr. McClung?
I'd like to make a motion that we, excuse me, make a motion that we assign a number and vote to approve and read into record the required resolution.
Second.
Okay, so it upon reading, it will be passage. So if there's any discussion, now is the time. If there's no discussion, all in favor of reading, first we'll need a number.
The number will be 635.
635. If everyone, you show approval of reading resolution number 635 for approval, all say aye.
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 Roll call since it's final approval of the resolution.
Okay. Madam Clerk, if you call the roll, please.
Dee Perkypile,
Yes.
Joyce Eller,
Yes.
David Mitchell,
Yes.
Terry McClung,
Yes.
James DeVito.
Yes.
Resolution number 635, a resolution approving the 2014 update to the Title VI program and for other purposes. Whereas pursuant to Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, 42 United States Code, and 2000D et sec, and 23 Code of the Federal Regulations, Part 21, the U.S. Department of Transportation and the Federal Transit Administration prohibit discrimination on the basis of race, color, or national origin. And whereas the Eureka Springs Transit System operates a public transportation service as well as other public transportation services from time to time, and whereas ESTS receives Federal Transit Administration, FTA, grants to operate public transportation services and is therefore required to demonstrate compliance with such federal laws and regulations by submitting a Title VI program update once every 3 years. And whereas ESTS seeks to ensure that the level and quality of public transportation service is provided in a non-discriminatory manner. And whereas ESTS seeks to promote full and fair participation in public transportation decision-making without regard to race, color, or national origin. And whereas ESTS seeks to ensure meaningful access to transit-related programs and activities by persons with limited English proficiency. And whereas pursuant to federal laws and regulations, the ESTS Title VI program must be considered and approved by the Eureka Springs City Council. And whereas an inclusive public participation process consistent with federal requirements and ESTS policies was undertaken prior to council consideration of the Title VI program update. And whereas revisions have been made to ESTS's Title VI program to reflect recent changes in federal laws and regulations and to reflect changes in ESTS's operations. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Eureka Springs, Arkansas, Section 1, the City Council approves the 2014 Title VI program update.
Thank you. Done deal. Okay, number 2 on under unfinished business is an ordinance to reclaim the unnamed street, Rock Street, Mr. Perkypile and Mr. Mitchell.
Actually, what happened to
Number one.
Number one.
Oh, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
Hartman.
Ordinance vacating McCune and portion of Hartman. Myself and Ms. Zeller. This is third reading, isn't it?
No, we've done the,
We did the reclaim.
this is
Oh, this-
vacating as the first
okay,
one.
all right.
First one on vacation.
Do we have the ordinance?
I don't,
Yes, it's in your mailbox.
it was not in the package I had. I've been
Is
looking
that
for it.
the one reclaiming parts of Sweeney Alley?
No, this is
It
Hartman.
looks like this.
Okay.
It's
All I got was the
Vacating and abandoning certain streets and,
the plat.
yeah.
That's all I got.
Okay.
Well, my apologies, but what we did was take the, Jim Crouch provided 2, one
Got
for vacating up to Cross Street and one all, and so his proposed ordinance, which you have seen, was modified to include the property description, and that's the only change.
Okay. So we need to include
So you've
that.
seen it, you just haven't seen it all together. My apologies, I thought I put it in your mailboxes.
So
Ms.
what
Zeller?
we're doing is, I have in my records that we approved the third reading on 2/7, so what we're doing is amending?
No, we brought it under our control, and now we are in the process of
Okay.
vacating it.
Okay, so how much further do we have to go on this now?
3 readings on this one.
Oh.
Question for the city attorney. Have you looked at this ordinance?
I viewed the ordinance without the addition of the legal description as it now stands prior to this about 3 weeks ago and had no problems with the ordinance as it stood. The description was what they had sought to have added to it. And as I spoke with the council a couple of weeks or a couple of times ago, if they provide the description, that's better for the city in the long run because then the city is not liable if there's an error in the description.
And that was done.
Okay, Mr. Mitchell?
Then my question to the attorney, since they provided the legal description, have you looked at the legal description to see that it matches what council said that we wanted done and that it doesn't cross Street and actually take pieces of land that we said no?
I am not a surveyor, but from my reading of it, it does not.
Thank you. Okay.
I make no warranty as to the exact land that lays there because I don't survey land, but it does not appear to.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. McClung?
I'm going to suggest that we, what I would like to do actually, is make a motion that we assign this ordinance a number as it was originally presented by the attorney. I believe it's this one right here. The council can make sure that that's right, but I'm quite certain that it is. And then go ahead and read that into the record because the legal description itself, because they had a surveyor do a complete meets and bounds description of the streets. And so we can read that, the second reading, we can read that in as a separate item instead of doing it all tonight because it needs to be included.
It is.
No, this meets and bounds description?
It is.
In the ordinance that I have, it's not.
I'm sorry, May I speak?
Sure, go ahead.
I got the information on Friday to plug in. This is from the surveyor. So I took the Jim Crouch resolution ordinance up to Cross Street. That is this map right here, up to Cross Street, and put the surveyor's legal that's on there in here. I apologize for not sending it to you today.
I didn't know.
But we really
I did
do
not
have
know.
it. And
Okay.
today was as soon as I could get it, because today was as soon as I could get into my computer.
Well, that's perfect. If it's all set to go, I'll make a motion that we assign this ordinance a number and approve on its first reading or whatever, however we do it.
Do I have a second on that?
I'll second that.
Discussion? If there's no discussion, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? 5-0. Perkyville.
Mayor Pro Tem, I'd like to request that we get the full ordinance.
Yeah.
I definitely will send it to you.
With the legal description for the next meeting. Thank you.
My apology, it was a pretty frenzied day, but I'll definitely send it to you.
But you're going to read it anyway here in a minute.
Wasn't that the vote?
Yes.
Wait, yeah.
Okay. The ordinance number will be 2206. An ordinance releasing, vacating, and abandoning part of the unopened portion of Hartman Street, excuse me, and McCune Street in the city of Eureka Springs, Arkansas, and for other purposes. Whereas a petition and application were duly filed with the city clerk of the city of Eureka Springs, Arkansas, on or about the 22nd day of July 2013, asking that the city vacate and abandon certain streets in Eureka Springs, and whereas the City Council of the City of Eureka Springs, Arkansas had previously delegated jurisdiction and authority over streets with green zones to the Eureka Springs Parks Commission, including the holding of public hearings involving petitions and applications to vacate streets, and whereas the Parks Commission set a public hearing on the petition for the 21st of October 2013, and whereas after notice of such public hearing was published as required by law, notices were given to landowners adjacent to the portion of the street sought to be closed, and whereas a public hearing was held, and after hearing all persons desiring to be heard on the question, the Parks Commission recommended that McCune Street be closed as requested, but that Hartman not be closed. And whereas the landowners that had petitioned for the closing of the streets appealed such recommendations to the Parks Commission, which appeal was heard by the Eureka Springs Planning Commission, which took no action on such street closing. And whereas the City Council of the City of Eureka Springs has reclaimed authority and jurisdiction over the matter of closing these portions of streets in Eureka Springs, Arkansas. Now therefore be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Eureka Springs, Arkansas, Section 1. The City of Eureka Springs finds that portions of the streets in question have never been opened and used by the public generally and are not needed for public purposes, and that the City of Eureka Springs, Arkansas hereby releases authority to close and vacate said streets pursuant to Arkansas Code annotated sections 1454-104, 1454-105, and 1454-303. Accordingly, the City of Eureka Springs, Arkansas hereby releases, vacates, and abandons all its rights, together with the rights of the public generally, in and to the streets described as follows. A part of McCune Street in the City of Eureka Springs, Carroll County, Arkansas, and being more particularly described as follows, beginning at the southeast corner of Block 122 of the Riley and Armstrong Survey on the westerly right-of-way of said McCune Street. Thence along the westerly and northwesterly right-of-way, north 16 degrees 0 minutes 56 seconds west, 34.94 feet, and north 39 degrees 22 minutes 41 seconds east, 161.9 feet. Thence leaving said right-of-way, and along a line parallel to and 2 feet southeast of a concrete retaining wall, north 68 degrees 22 minutes 0 seconds east, 33.37 feet, thence leaving said line, north 23 degrees 22 minutes 0 seconds east, 1.65 feet, to said right-of-way, thence along said right-of-way, north 82 degrees 41 minutes 49 seconds east, 41.8 feet, to the westerly right-of-way of Hartman Street. Thence along right-of-way, said right-of-way, south 28 degrees 10 minutes 52 seconds east, 32.27 feet, to the southerly right-of-way of said McCune Street. Thence along said right-of-way, south 82 degrees 48 minutes 29 seconds west, 64.37 feet, south 39 degrees 21 feet, south 39 degrees 21 minutes 58 seconds west, 148.33 feet, and south 15 degrees 59 minutes 12 seconds east, 59.97 feet. Thence leaving said right-of-way and crossing said street, north 52 degrees 16 minutes 28 seconds west, 50.61 feet, to the point of beginning, containing 0.186 acre. and a part of Hartman Street in the city of Eureka Springs, Carroll County, Arkansas, and being more particularly described as follows. Beginning at the northernmost corner of Block 122 of the Riley and Armstrong Survey on the westerly right-of-way of said Hartman Street, thence across said street, north 31 degrees, 9 minutes 25 31 degrees, 9 minutes, 25 seconds east, 35.51 feet. To the northwest corner of Block 151, on the easterly right-of-way of said street, thence along right-of-way, south, 26 degrees, 29 minutes, 28 seconds east, 154.91 feet. South, 28 degrees, 10 minutes, 52 seconds east, 32.49 feet. South, 25 degrees, 41 minutes, 10 degrees east, 53.09 feet. And south, 8 degrees, 23 minutes, 15 seconds east, 29.62 feet, to the right-of-way of Cross Street, thence leaving said rights-of-way and crossing Hartman Street, south 81 degrees, 36 minutes, 45 seconds west, 30 feet. To the westerly right-of-way of Hartman Street, thence along said right-of-way, north 8 degrees, 23 minutes, 15 seconds west, 25.05 feet, north 25 degrees, 41 minutes, 10 degrees west, 47.87 feet, north 28 degrees, 10 minutes, 52 seconds west, 32.27 feet, and north 26 degrees, 29 minutes, 28 seconds west, 136.35 feet to the point of beginning, containing 0.176 acres. Thank you, Terry. Section 2, the absolute ownership of the property abandoned by the city shall vest in the owners of the real estate abutting thereto, each such abutting owner taking title to the center line of such street so abandoned, and such ownership being free from the easements and ownership of the city for use as a street. Section 3, the mayor and city clerk of the city of Eureka Springs, Arkansas, pursuant to this ordinance, are hereby authorized to do any and all acts necessary to effectuate the terms of this ordinance, including the granting of deeds to the adjacent landowners. Section 4, a copy of this ordinance duly certified by the city clerk shall be filed in the office of the circuit clerk and ex officio recorder of the Carroll County, Arkansas Western Division in the deed records of the county.
Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in, Mr. Perkypile?
I mean, everybody's all good with this? We're all feeling comfortable with this?
If not, I discuss it.
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, all in favor of approval of this ordinance signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposition? None?
I'm going to make one comment.
Yes.
Okay. I'll also provide the surveyor's stamp description so you can match it
It's
up.
on that plat, yeah.
Oh, good. Okay, you're right, it is.
Okay, item 2, ordinance to reclaim unnamed street, Rock Street. Mr. Perkypile, Mr. Mitchell.
Motion to discuss.
Second. Mr. Mitchell?
Yes, sir. I'd like to ask either the Brickses or their representative attorney to have a moment to address us specifically to this issue on the reclaim part, if you want to.
Hi, I'm Rachel Bricks. My husband and I live at 1 Magnetic.
I don't have any questions. Did you have any bullet points or any little thing you wanted to say at this point about this that you haven't said before, maybe?
Well, I do have a great map.
Could I see that, then? Do you have a visual?
I do.
That
You
would
knew
be,
I would.
That would be nice.
Okay, bear with me here. This thing is enormous. But what my husband did...
Maybe Bruce will loan you his tripod because he's such a gentleman.
Oh, that's okay. Nah, I'm good. Thank you, though. What my husband did is he put the plat map over the property just to make it easier, because I know we've been talking about this forever and a day, and we've only been able to see
from here to the left of my arm. And I just wanted to say that here is our property outlined in green. Here's our garage, here's our house, here's our barn. This alley here has been vacated. It was vacated in 2010. This alley was also vacated in 2010. The rest of that alley was vacated back in 1976. All of this property in black, all the way over to here, all the way around, is the property of the neighbors behind us, Marble Flats. I know it's been brought up before that their only access is this unnamed street here in the middle of our property. And as you can see from the Google Earth map, the way that the property is used, and I know you folks were all out there, is there's a driveway that goes around our garage and the driveway that comes up here and comes back out. We're allowed to go through here because of our neighbor. This truly is the only access that we have to our property. I'd like to point out the other accesses that these folks have available to them. This first one here you've probably seen up on Magnetic Road. It's gated off, and that access is over here on Magnetic, and it goes up into their property and then connects with all these other platted streets. And the reason that I'm showing this and bringing this up is because this access appears like it might be available to them because it's on a plat map, so I'm showing you the other accesses available to them based on the same thing, the plat map. But this road here exists. These two access points here are not vacated, and they go directly into their property. They've got 150 feet here only out to Mill Hollow where utilities would be, and Main Street's right here. I don't know how many feet that is, but it's short. There's another road here that goes into their property, and it's only 60 feet to Mill Hollow here. I know there was a concern with utility access. I know there had been mention at some point of a road access also. And I want to mention, too, that they do own 2,000 feet. That's almost a half a mile on Magnetic Road. Where anywhere along here, I'm not a surveyor, engineer, whatever, so I don't know where exactly, but there could be other access points made. And just so you can see what these look like, if you can look at these bottom pictures on the left, this middle picture, and over here, those are pictures of what's going on here. Notice no one's house is here, no one's garage is here, and it doesn't go through the middle of there. And there's actually already a road that starts up there. The thing about our property and why it looks like such a road or an access is because it's been privately maintained for over 120 years. And the Weems family, who lived there for 8 decades before us, they're excavators. That's what their family does. So, of course, they made a really nice road there to get to and from their home. Finally, I'd like to point out this access, which to me is the most interesting and feasible access. And I've got a great picture of it here. You can see this road coming up here, and that's right across from the spring. And it just keeps getting wider and wider. And the reason that it's getting wider and wider is because it's currently being used as a public trail, heavily used as a public trail. The Mountain Bike Club of Eureka Springs is on it. The Chair Parks, Bill Featherstone and his wife and their dogs were walking on it. And we can see it because it goes right onto our property. They were actually out maintaining it on February 22nd. A gentleman who said he was the husband of the ex-mayor. It wasn't Joe Joy, so it must have been some other woman mayor. They were out with rakes and loppers and maintaining this trail back there. So it's as wide as our driveway in spots, if not wider. Just today, there were bikers all over. And as a matter of fact, Adventure Mountain Outfitters, owned by Denton West, he and his son have a video posted of this trail on their website. It's been up for 4 years now. And it's called the Marble Flats Trail. And it's it's like a road. I mean, and it's way flatter than our driveway, and it comes out right here. And that, as you can see, isn't very far from our driveway. So I'm just wanting to point this out because there are several other access points. There's a heavily used access point here. So I just wanted to make sure that I pointed that out. And as far as trails or whatever's going on here, there's a trail already right here being used. So I don't understand, that comes out to Magnetic. So I don't understand what the need would be to have 2 trails here. Not to mention the fact, and I'll wrap this up because I know I can get wordy, and I'm sorry, I get passionate about this. This is where the trail would be. And you can see how it goes right through the middle of our property. And I don't have my quote book with me, but several parks commissioners went to vacate McCune and Hartman because, quote, it was a no-brainer because it went right through the middle of their property. And ours is the exact same situation. And a couple of alder people have also said in previous meetings,
why would you want somebody walking right next to your property while you're out having, I think it was said, like a beer and a cigarette out on your deck or something? You wouldn't want people walking 5 feet from your deck. So, anyway, that's kind of what I wanted to point out on that as far as access points.
Mr. Perkypile.
Thank you.
Rachel, if
Yes.
you would you open that up again?
Yes.
Please. I also wanted to point out that there's one other access point coming up magnetic there, the dark line, right by your picture, by your chin there, the dark line. Right,
This?
That is a road that has been, that at one time it was cut, had culverts up there, and it was intended to access, or at least go up there. The culverts have washed out since then, but the road is also cut there. So there is access from either direction going up and down magnetic.
Yeah, I was just pointing out like the main obvious ones, but I know there are several others too, actually.
Mr. Mitchell.
I had the opportunity to get a map similar to that and look at everything. What I find interesting is the platted streets from this sacrosanct 1883 survey that everybody loves so much. Seems to be you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and actually up around your property, I saw 2 other potential streets that nobody's discussing that look like they're access points to me that are platted. So I'm thinking now when you added the other one, there's 8 different platted access points into this property, and a trail that's already it's been videoed, and the parks commissioner chair walks on and people maintain. I'm having a hard time understanding, and maybe we're going to find out real quick here, what's so important about a little section of Rock Street that runs within 6 foot of somebody's house, and then how many, and which we said on McCune and Hartman that was wrong, and we seem to be moving on that, on vacating it at this point anyway, because, quote, at one point somebody said it was within 6 feet. And I wonder how many other pieces of property since 1883 in this city could be affected and literally have a trail right through their property, cutting it in half, or right next to their house. And is that really fair to do that to a citizen who has a piece of property here? And is it really fair in this case when there's that many access points to a piece of property that never seem to have been mentioned up to this point to us? I find that most interesting.
Mr. McClung.
Well, first of all, Hartman and McCune, there was no one that was affected or that came forward, which if you walked it, there's nothing there. It drops off in Fatima's bar. So, I mean, it's not apples and apples, first of all. Secondly, and most importantly, it's a platted street that affects someone else's property. And if the property owners at the top of the hill that own the Marble Flats said, we don't care, then I don't care. But that's your end user, and I don't care how many accesses they have. It's platted, and it's their given right to have access to that street. It just is.
Mr. Mitchell.
First of all, I walked Hartman Street, and second of all, there was somebody that complained, and it was Mrs. Zumwalt. And it's very interesting that when we get looking at that particular Hartman Street, nobody seemed to get real upset when all of a sudden Hartman Street, Zumwalt's property came over and took half of Hartman Street. I didn't hear the attorney, let me finish, didn't hear an attorney say a thing about, well, how did we lose 1 half of Hartman Street? When did this city vacate that? I did hear from Bruce, who had some concerns about that. Was he going to get access up to the reservoir? And he had some major concerns. But nobody got excited about Zumwalt having half of Hartman Street. When did that happen?
Let me have the city attorney.
I may respond.
Yeah.
The city cannot be adversely possessed against that state law. That is not, if that is taken and the city needs it, the city can go in there and take it right back. It doesn't have to go through a court battle. It doesn't have to go through this council. The city owns what it owns. No matter if you build on it or the President of the United States orders someone who built on it, until it's taken from the city, it cannot be given up without this council to it. Just because someone builds something on it doesn't mean someone else owns it.
Mr. McClellan?
Also, along the same line, that has